awarded in the amount of roughly about $1.5 million. The granting itself will allow us the opportunity to return our staffing numbers to what we were on December 31st of 2015. As most of you are aware, we've been browning out or temporary closing fire stations. Specifically, early on we rotated those brownouts throughout the community. More recently, we went and decided on browning out Station 73, which is the airport station. It's very difficult to prove negative outcomes as a result of that brownout. However, some innuendo or anecdotal information does show it does have an effect on response times. We're hoping to restaff with 7 initially, up to 9 positions as a part of this grant. The 7 are currently 3 are grant funded, are identified as grant funded eligible. Those are the 3 positions that were frozen. We have 3 positions that will become available over the course between now and the beginning of the period of performance, which is in February of 2017. A couple things to mention and that are of concern. First off, as a fire chief, I think it's very challenging to become overly dependent on grants. However, this does kind of buy us some time in order to further look at some of our deployment strategies and what works and what doesn't work within the Prescott community. It also gets us back to a stable footing as we move forward with the compensation piece in order to perhaps fund that into the out years. Second is, there's always a challenge with the upcoming pension reforms that are due to take effect in July of 2017. That holding off to that point is very difficult for us in the sense that we would be down virtually 6 more positions by that time. So to table that and not hire folks really just doesn't make sense. And the other element on that is if we are to bring them on, even after July 1st of 2017, the likelihood is we could still be faced with bringing people that are already in a current pension system as laterals into our organization. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions that you might have.
Questions, comments from the council? Questions, comments from the public?
My name is Daniel Madison. I live in Merritt Street. I don't see any reason not to do this. What I'm concerned about is what's going to happen to insurance rates if we continue to run at such a low staffing level. So it's going to end up costing the city of Prescott, either the citizens or the city directly, quite a bit of money if we don't go ahead and receive this $1.5 million and let Dennis run a full load of staffing. So I highly recommend approval.
Go ahead.
So, Chief, let me see if I get this right. After this grant is possibly approved today, then we may be forced or have to look at in the future, unless something changes, in laying off people once this grant's over.
Right at the moment, what this does is our current staffing numbers that have been approved in the budgetary process. If, for example, we run the 2-year period of the grant and there is not something done to further sustain our ability to pay down the unfunded liability, which is the kind of the elephant in the room all the time, then in fact we would be forced. But I think any future layoffs per se, if they were forthcoming, could be forecasted out that we wouldn't have to attach names to them. We could do those through attrition if that was the case, in fact the case 2 years down the road.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 4352-1561.
Second.
You got a motion and a second vote, please?
Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Governor.
So they just had the vote to accept the SAFER grant. Why is that important to the city of Prescott? Gives us 2 years in which to really work on finding a solution to the unfunded mandate.
And earlier this year, you considered a sales tax to take to the voters. The council voted against that at that time, but it sounded like they were going to bring it back probably next spring.
I think that that's the plan.
You got a big rain coming.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it gives us enough time to really craft it so that we can find out what the people really want out of a sales tax issue like that. You know, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, if you can solve this issue in 5 years with a sales tax, I'd be on board for it. They're not so much on board for, yeah, let's extend this out 20 years.
So you want to find something that will take care of this probably within the next 5 or 7 years by the time it's all done.
That's exactly right.
So Chief Light, they just voted to accept the SAFER grant. What's that going to mean to your department?
Well, I'm really excited. I think it does indicate a kind of a turn in the road that we're getting back on a little bit surer footing as far as our station staffing needs, and it gets us back to where we really need to be in this community, and that's having 5 fire engines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
All right, so now that it's been approved, what's the timeline for getting more guys hired and working?
Well, the recruitment period started on August 12th upon the notification of grant award. It runs for a period of up to 180 days, which will start building our list of eligible candidates in hopes of bringing them on within the first week of February of 2017.
So it's still another 6 months out, probably?
Yeah, roughly about 5 months out. One of the reasons for this, as much as anything else, is it will also give me a year's worth of data in which to make future decisions on in what the true impacts of stations being temporarily closed are to this community. And I think it will show a relationship that the need for 5 fire engines is reinforced.
So you were fortunate earlier when there was a plane or a helicopter accident out at the airport, and that was one of the days that the station was not browned out. But if that had happened when the station had been browned out, that would have slowed response time.
It probably would have had some incremental impact upon that particular response. Our ARF engineer is always there, so it would still have an aircraft rescue firefighting capability there. However, the secondary manpower and staffing needed to work the event would have been delayed in coming.
So does that mean brownouts will continue through the next 5 months?
It's likely incrementally that we will have a need to brown out fire stations in the forthcoming months as well.
And what about additional kinds of staffing? I mean, is there anything you could do temporarily in the meantime?
We have our staffing plan, and we have ability to call back in order to meet our minimum staffing. Right now, our current minimum staffing is 16. It'll return to 17 in February, and I really want to have the data to look at and be able to analyze, because I think it's going to tell a better story than anecdotal information or perception.
And what about, do you have any more resignations you expect coming up in the next few months?
I really hope not. I do have about 3 planned retirements. These are on the books, scheduled. One's in October, one's, I believe, in November, and one's in the spring. And those are the 3 positions that were also approved as part of this grant funding.
Okay, anything you want to add?
No, I appreciate the community support for this, and as we work through these fiscal challenges, hopefully we'll be able to find a longer-term solution.
Thanks.
Thanks.